I started hashtagging all the times that I was shooting with Canon, every job that I was doing, every assignment, until I got Canon's attention, because I wanted a sponsorship from them. So I tell photographers all the time, I was like, please don't ever shout out a brand unless they're paying you to do that. I don't see giving anybody free advertisement. Like, I see photographers make their username like Nikon Shooter 341. Nikon aren't paying you. And believe me, these brands, these companies do sponsor photographers, especially because I believe in utilizing my heritage, utilizing my background. I was like, hey, Canon, you all do not sponsor any black male photographers. I'm that guy. And so I got the sponsorship with Canon about 10 years ago, where they send me new equipment, new gear, which saves me a lot of money. But I stick with my same camera, and I'll usually send that new stuff to my assistants or something, because I don't like switching up. Other than that, I have a sponsorship with ProPhoto, and it's the same story with ProPhoto that it was with Canon. And so I try to only utilize ProPhoto lighting equipment in my studios. One, because of the sponsorship. Two, is because of the quality. I actually get what I need out of ProPhoto. Out of the other lighting brands that I've tried, it was not consistent. I'm really big on shadows and lighting, and those other brands just weren't getting it for me like ProPhoto. So it's ProPhoto and Canon. Those are my gear, that's my equipment. I keep it really simple. I'm a minimalist.
Love that. Thank you.
Yep.
Going back to the topic of building a brand.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have kind of started to carve out what your niche and what kind of like your brand identity should look like, it's about getting it out there. Now, I know social media is one giant aspect that people, or tool that people use. Along your journey,
Mm-hmm.
what other tools, quote unquote, did you use to just get visibility?
Well,
Or did it just organically come to you? Because I know people ask me to ask you this.
Yes, I hate to sound repetitive, but it really is the age of social media right now. When we think of social media, we only think of like the big two platforms like Facebook and for Instagram. But I've always been really big on oversaturating my work into all of their different platforms. LinkedIn is an extremely powerful one. If you really want to be able to reach out and touch potential clients that are actually reputable within the industry, LinkedIn is that social media platform. Not Instagram, not Twitter, not even Facebook. It's LinkedIn. Like, you can legitimately just type in editor-in-chief of Harper's Bazaar magazine. You may not be able to reach out and touch the editor-in-chief, but you will be able to see who their assistants are, who the junior directors are. All of that is just listed right there for you. Also, let me see if I have a copy of this publication. Okay, so like when you go into a magazine, I tell this in my workshops all the time. When people are like, how do I know who to contact to get jobs and work? Well, before you even get on the social media, go into the magazines of the ones that you actually respect. And in the front of the magazine, there is a credit page. Like right here, I don't know if my light is like reflect, but anyway, hopefully you all can see this. On this credit page, it gives you a list of about 50 individuals that worked on a magazine. And the editor-in-chief is at the top. You're not going to be able to reach out and touch them at first, but you can reach out and touch the senior feature writer, the senior fashion editor, the junior fashion editor. What you want to do is get all of their names from this magazine, go to LinkedIn, look up their LinkedIn page. Then you contact them directly via LinkedIn. You can also take their names from that magazine and type them into Instagram, look them up. People are egotistical. If you just go onto their page and you just start liking a whole lot of their content, you'll get their attention. If your work is good, they're going to go check it out, and then they're going to contact you. My theory about this is they're used to having hundreds of photographers or creatives contacting them every single day. So you want to stand out. So what I did was I always believed in bringing them to me. I don't believe in chasing clients. I don't believe in chasing connections. I believe in placing myself at a high enough vibration with my brand to where they actually come towards me. That's not being arrogant. It's not being egotistical. It's that if you believe in your work enough, then set yourself up to succeed with that. If there's a client that I want, let's say for instance, I'm going to utilize Tom Ford. I love the brand of Tom Ford so much. I love the brand of Yves Saint Laurent, well, Saint Laurent now, Saint Laurent so much. So what I did was I looked up the interns for these companies. not the main people, but the people at the very bottom. I started trying to build relationships with them. I started sitting up there, sending them DMs, asking them if they wanted to go to lunch and like just discuss creativity and things like that. I didn't try to sell myself to them. I tried to get to know the people at the very bottom, and then I worked myself up, and I became valuable to them. I would invite them to shows. I would invite them to galleries that I have, because a lot of times we don't want to put in that work, but I have invested thousands of dollars into putting on my own galleries, and with the intention of just inviting people who I wanted to work with to the gallery to see my work. Because if I'm sending them an email, most of the time they never see these emails. If you want to just like, hey, I want to introduce myself to you. I'm Angela Foote, I'm Bruce Taylor, this is my work. They don't see those emails. So what I did was I would create a gallery, I would put my work up in that gallery, and then I would get like a PR person to just send out invites to all of these people from that magazine, from the interns all the way up, and invite them. That way they would come see my work on my terms. And it would be displayed the way it was meant to be displayed. Our work is never be created to be displayed something this small. It would be huge prints or on canvas, and they would have beautiful lighting, and they would be surrounded by other respectable people, and they would come in and they would have nice wine, great music, because all of that creates the atmosphere in which we would love for our work to be showcased at. And I booked a lot of work that way. So even though I had to come out of my own pocket, I got paid 3 or 4 times over in the return on that investment. So you got to think outside the box. It's not just contacting these people on Instagram or on social media or on emails. They get that by everybody. You got to do something that's going to stand out. When it came to Vogue Mexico, what I did was, instead of just sending them over my portfolio, because they get those all the time from photographers, what I did was I actually created a coffee table book. Just like any famous photographer does, they like create these big books of their work. And I had it wrapped really beautiful in my brand colors of matte black, shiny black, and gold. And I had those sent over to their offices. People do not turn down gifts. They turn down portfolios. They never even open them. But a gift, it was presented very beautifully. I had a courier take it over there personally, so I knew nothing gets lost in the mail. They had to open it up. They had a greeting card with it, to introduce myself to them, and I was like, you know, here's a gift of my latest work. I would love for you to blah, 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 whatever. Make it sound really cool. They open it, they love what they see the investment placed into it, so they feel like your quality is up there with all of the other photographers that they work with. I also make sure that my photography is on the same quality level of the client that I want to work with. If I want to shoot for French Vogue, if they don't have a lot of black girls in there, I'm going to make sure I'm going to go get me some French looking model or whatever that represents that brand the best, so that when they see my work, I want them to feel as though the only thing missing is their logo. I'm going to get it as close as possible to what that brand represents within the same vibration of my personal style. But I make sure that when they see it, they see the quality, and I look like I'm already working for them. So when you place all of those things together, it puts you in a very competitive position in which to present yourself to potential clients.
Very cool. Thank you. I see in the chat someone asked, while on the topic of branding, you said that you were high on the Google list for quote unquote black photographer. Can you speak more about that and utilization of search engine optimization?
That is so important, and people are sleeping on that. SEO, which is search engine optimization, meta tagging, meta naming your images, so that when they do pop up on Google research, or on Google search or Yahoo search, whatever anyone is using as a search engine in which to find you, not only should your work pop up, but it should be connected back to your website. So what I did is, this was years ago when we were still using HTML to code our websites, which we don't anymore. I made sure that every image that I had of a model, and I still do this on my website right now, but in a different way, I will make sure that in the tag that the model's name is there. Let's say Winnie Harlow. I will make sure it says Winnie Harlow by Shamayim. And then in the description of the image, this is all through meta tagging, and no matter which website platform you're using for your hosting, they have an area where you can do meta tagging on your images. It'll say Winnie Harlow by Shamayim. Then in the description, it will be like model Winnie Harlow photographed by photographer Shamayim. All of those are keywords because I want photographer associated with my name. I'm already very, very fortunate to have a name that not that many people have, so I was able to brand that. But even if You don't. You should still be able to start associating your name with the models that you're working with, no matter how new that model is, because you just never know. That model who's new right now, she or he may blow up and be huge one day. One of my first girls who I developed was model Jasmine Tukes. At the time, she was just a new model in Los Angeles who just happened to be extremely beautiful and very talented. But I saw a huge future for her. Right now, she's one of the highest paid, most in-demand models in the world. Jasmine Tukes now is the Victoria's Secret angel. Black girl, model of color. Way back when I first started working with her, which was, my God, like 2010. This 10 years ago, this decade ago, I made sure to meta tag everything that I shot with her. She was not a big model at the time, but once again, you have to put in that work. So I put my name with her name. Now when people Googled her, my work was still popping up. She's done so much work now that work I did 10 years ago is a little bit further down there. But for a very long time, when she first got with Victoria's Secret, when she first started getting these major campaigns, my work was very high up on there. And a lot of my clients were like, I discovered you through Jasmine Tukes. So that meta tagging, that search engine optimization, yes, it requires work, but it's super easy. Like if you just read any of the background of your hosting for your website, it'll tell you how to do the meta tagging. Also, instead of SEO optimization for social media, you use hashtags. It's still a little bit oversaturated, especially on Instagram, but it still very much works. But you got to switch it up. You can't just put like hashtag photographer, hashtag fashion. None of those will show you. You got to be a little bit more creative. So if you go and push like my hashtags are hashtag fashion photography, which is more specific, hashtag black fashion photographer, which I have actually booked L'Oreal off of. When I asked them how did they even find me, because they contacted me on Instagram, they were like, we were looking for black photographers. We typed in black fashion photographers and black photographers on Instagram, and that's how we came across your work. So trust me, it does work. When Netflix contacted me, they contacted me through Instagram. They were like, we were looking up black photographers because we're building a new division called Strong Black Lead, and we wanted to make sure we had a black creative group for it. We went on Instagram, we typed in black photographers, and your work kept popping up. That's how we discovered you. So again, I cannot stress enough about like just putting in that little bit of extra work. It's not good enough just to post your work. Yes, you do good work. Yes, your photos are beautiful, but you have to do the business behind it in order to make sure that you can put your work on a platform to where it reaches the most amount of people as possible. It's not going to happen overnight. It may, but I doubt it. Like I said, I started doing this years ago, but I'm consistent with it even to this day. I'll never be as good as I want to be. So I'm always going to constantly be going after that next job and that next gig.
Thank you so much for that. Okay. When it comes onto again, you know, the business of carving out your niche. When you started out, you said that you were very clear at the beginning of wanting to do fashion photography. Cool.
Yes.
For those people who are kind of figuring out what they want to do, have you seen persons, you know, at a high level who kind of do a little bit of everything, or at that level, is it basically almost like a tunnel vision about your specific niche? Because I know a lot of people are trying to figure out, you know, what they're gonna do, because not everybody starts out very clear, you know?
Well, the way that I kind of feel like I discovered it in the beginning for myself was I wrote down everything that I was exceptionally passionate about. I wrote down what I feel like I would shoot for free. I wrote down all of the lifestyle I wanted, the culture that I wanted for my life. And that included traveling around the world, meeting extremely important and valuable people, working with beautiful people. Anyway, so I just wrote all of it down, and all of it led back to fashion photography. So if you're writing things down like I want to travel, I want to work with celebrities, I want to work with famous people, I want to get paid to go to events and things like that, it may lead you into celebrity photography. It may lead you into event photography. And you can most certainly use anything that I said towards any of those directions, because it just applies to life and it applies to business work, the industry in general. My path was more specifically for fashion photography, but I feel like this stuff would work if you wanted to be a wildlife photography, or if you wanted to go into architecture. It's about knowing where you want to master, because a lot of things, like if we're just like shooting everything, we're not really mastering anything. Then our brand is not associated with anything in particular. So if you're doing weddings and if you're doing child photography, if you're doing still photography, if a client was to come across your page, they're like, what are you actually the best at? Sure, you're good at photography, but we want to hire the best person for our job. You know, they want to know exactly what they're going to get. Put it like this. I have clients that pay a $15,000 day rate, okay? $15,000 day rate, and they're going to book you for 3 days. They want to make certain that they're going to get their investment worth. And if they're going to your page and they look at, first of all, your first point of contact now is your social media, not your website. Keep that in mind. So you want to make sure that your social media is exceptionally curated. So one, they're going to go to your social media, and if it looks all over the place, it's really distracting. And the one who's going to be hiring you, they're going to go right past you into the next person who has mastered exactly what it is that they want. So that's why I'm like, if you want to do photography in weddings, and if you want to do photography in still life, and then some in fashion and some in commercial stuff, you may want to make separate pages for that, because you don't ever want to distract your client. You want to make sure that they stay focused and they know exactly what you're exceptionally good at, because that's what's going to make you stand apart. I hope that answered the question.
For sure. So there's another question from the chat. So what processes do you have in place to ensure that you do all the work that's required for business? As the person imagines that it's a struggle for most persons who are not passionate about the detail, the business aspect of photography. You know, do you have a calendar? Do you have a team? Do you use automation? That kind of thing.
Most creatives are not interested in business. They just want to create. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The only thing that I think is wrong with that is that if your primary focus is on the creation part, if you don't go and hire the correct people, which is why, like I said, I have met some of the most exceptionally talented photographers, and they're struggling financially. They're struggling, and I'm not just talking about currently, I'm like for the trajectory of their career, because they never took advantage, I mean, they never took control of the business part of it. The business part cannot be separated from the creative part, not if you actually want to be successful. I myself, I'm not really big on, I'm not a really big people person. So I knew that I needed to surround myself with team members who were very, very social, who had no problem with, when we go to an event, they'll go out and they'll talk to strangers and bring the strangers back to me. I'm a closer, I'm not an opener. So my first assistant, my second assistant, both of them are extremely social people, and they can bring people to me. And once those people are brought to me, I'm in my zone. I can sell the hell out of my work very easily then, but I'm not the type of person that'll just go up and start talking to new people. But I needed that. So I went and hired the correct people for that. I have a project manager, because even though I want to be able to answer every single email personally, that's not even possible. Half of the time I'm on a plane or in some crazy country that doesn't even get Wi-Fi signal. So I made sure that I had to hire the correct person that I could trust, in which, like, that was their specialty. And that's my project manager. Our project manager could care less about photography. They didn't go to school for photography. They don't know anything about photography. They went to school for business specifically. So I make sure that I keep those type of people in those type of positions. The only people who I care about photography are like my actual digital assistant, my first photography assistant. Because once again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I'm not a technical photographer. So I make sure that my assistants are very technical. They could care less about how I'm talking about spiritual mumbo jumbo stuff that I do on set. They're like, okay, we need to make sure your lighting is here. We need to make sure this equipment is here, because they know what the client expects. So it's about hiring the positions. And until you get that money in order to hire those people, you're going to have to do it yourself. You're going to have to learn those skill sets. For a long time, I could not afford to hire a videographer to follow me around and film my stuff. I had to do that myself. For the longest, I could not afford a retoucher. I had to learn how to do retouching myself. I went and took the proper courses and the classes to make myself more valuable for my clients. But now that I am in a position, I hire the right people for those jobs. I can't do it all. I had to learn how to sit up there and delegate, especially important task. When it comes to emails, I do not do any automation whatsoever. Unless my whole entire team is traveling, then they'll get an automatic email saying that we're traveling and we'll get back to you. But there's absolutely nothing that beats that personal touch of talking one-on-one with the client, seeing exactly what that client needs, seeing how I can be of value to them. So there's a point of contact though. First, they're going to run into my project manager. Then my project manager is going to feed through the client, see what the client needs so that they can better prepare me so that when I'm talking to them one-on-one, I know exactly what they need and I know exactly how I can be of service to them.
Awesome. There is another question. It kind of feeds off what you just said. Is there a quote unquote to-do list that you have when you're approaching projects and or campaigns that ensure consistency? So is it that your team, you just have a list and it's just like check, 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 done? When you're approaching those big projects or campaigns?
I think I understand what you mean. With every single client, no matter how large, no matter how small, is we always provide a really comprehensive vision board. I do my vision boards digitally, where I create them on my website. I give my client a passcode. It just comes across so much more professional. But with the link that I create as a vision board, I'll have the makeup looks, the hair looks. I will have the location options. I will have talent options. I provide an entire team if they need it, makeup, hair, wardrobe, stylist, all of that stuff is on this link because I want the client to be able to speak to all of us so that we're all on the same vibration, we're all on the same page. It just makes things flow so much more smoothly and nobody walks up into on set unprepared. But I used to do it in a PDF form. I used to do it, but what I found is that when you make it in a PDF form, things change and they change a lot. So if you made it on a PDF form and you're on a plane on the way to the client, you can't edit that and update it for the client by the time you get there. But with a website, I could go in there and I can make all the connections and changes instantaneously. And then everybody is updated. I don't have to resend out that PDF form with all of the different instructions or all of the different changes of the individuals and the creatives and things like that. So that's something that is consistent. Other than that, nothing is ever consistent outside of that. Everything changes. Every client needs something completely different. I have one client that it's a celebrity client. Celebrities are totally different than my fashion clients. Celebrities want to make sure that they're catered to, that they're taken very well care of. They will not shoot in just any type of studio. If they're on location, they want a trailer. When I'm doing editorial, none of that stuff is really ever required. It's nice to have, but it's not required. So it changes up depending on who I'm working with. And it also depends upon the client's budget as to how much value we can afford to provide. If the client is only paying something a low rate like $5,000 US, like that's not very high. We can't provide, we try our best to maximize it for the client. But if they're coming with us with a $50,000 budget, oh, I can provide so much more value. And then that's a completely different criteria list of what we need to do to provide for each client. So it just really depends on who the client is, what their budget is. But the only thing consistent, just following back, the only thing that's consistent is the way that my team prepares the actual production on our side, on our part.
Okay, great. A question that was WhatsApped to me on the subject of shooting fashion. Textures are important. Have you picked up any particular kind of tips along the way? You know, sometimes you have extremely complex and textured garments, and sometimes it is pretty basic, quote unquote, in terms of the finish of it. Have you picked up any tips to kind of maximize the delivery or the visual impact of the textures of the garment?
Like I said, I'm a fashion photographer. What I mean by that, I love fashion first. I love fashion before I love the photography aspect of it. So it's critical to me to understand my clients. So if I'm booking a job with a client and I know that their collection is like leather based, I will study every way I can possible to reflect lighting and shadows on to get the best quality out of that particular look. So if someone comes to me and they want to shoot like swimsuits, I'm going to study swimsuits for a week or two before I shoot with that client. I do a lot of research just based upon the fabrics, the garments. I'll ask the client very specific questions. What fabrics is this made out of? What is the stitching looking like? Can you show me any details before we get on set? And I will go to fabric stores and I will hold up a light over the fabrics just to see how light reflects off of it. I will go and buy a sample of that fabric and I will just take mock pictures of it just to see how light reflects off of it during natural light and studio light, all of that kind of way, so that I'm as best prepared before I get on that set. One, because when the client sees that you actually are passionate about their product and not just taking pictures, they feel like you speak the same language as them. And that's very important if you want to be brought on back for a job. A client wants to feel like you get them. And in order to get them, you have to study them and study what they're passionate about. So I'll go above and beyond to understand the product long before I get on set. So hopefully that answered that question, because I feel like I kind of got off of the track with that one just a little bit.
No, yeah, that was the question. that was kind of the question. So I guess you're, to summarize, test shooting to see how the lighting will treat that particular garment, especially I guess if it's a more complicated structural piece or something along those lines. Okay, awesome. There are a bunch of questions. Let me get to them. Okay, so let me scroll up. You studied business. Someone is asking kind of what courses or resources would you recommend for those looking to learn more about that business aspect, that brand building? Is there anything that you have found that have stood out of the sea of YouTube videos or courses,
Advertising. If I could only take just one course, I would say advertising. One, you learn how to brand yourself so that you're not just another photographer, but more importantly, you learn how to use color theory. You learn how to do composition theory. All of these attributes that have nothing to do with the camera, but everything to do with the actual picture. So with advertising, you'll learn like the psychology behind what colors stimulate a viewer to look at an image a little bit longer. Or like how I say at my workshops a lot is that an action photograph, a viewer will stare at it between 3 to 5 seconds longer than a model just stagnant and just standing there. If you don't know the psychology of that, it doesn't even register in your mind. So I'll do a lot of action shots when I'm dealing with like campaigns and editorials, because I know that it'll keep the viewer's attention just a little bit longer. People just flip past any magazine that has a model just standing there, unless the clothes are just really extravagant or the model looks really interesting. But when you have that action shot with a model like leaping or jumping or doing really cool poses, it arrests the attention of the viewer 3 to 5 seconds longer. I learned that in advertising. The color's red. They stimulate blood flow. They stimulate mind memory over a cooler color like blue. Blue makes the viewer feel better, but red stimulates them. It makes it more exciting, so it stays in the viewer's head a little bit more. So if you were to utilize red on the cover of a magazine, more people are prone to pick that magazine up than rather if the model or the celebrity was wearing blue. Learn that in color theory through advertising. So step outside of the photography courses on Instagram, start looking up some advertising. There's this course called Masterclass. They have advertisements all over the place on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. They have like probably 100 different classes about all kinds of things. And I found that a lot of their courses, like one I just got finished with was advertising on there, and that was really good. It was about from one of the top advertising agencies in the world. They did a masterclass about how they utilize psychology, composition, and working with clients. I highly recommend that one. They also have a photography one on there by Annie Leibovitz, which is extremely good as well. I also book a lot of workshops for myself. I'll take business workshops. I'll take makeup artist workshops, hairstylist workshops. No, I don't want to be any of those things, but it helps me become a better photographer. Another really good workshop that I subscribe to is film directors. Anytime I can get to attend a film director's workshop, it makes me a better photographer, because I learn how to operate my set so much better and give better direction to my client, to my model, to my team members, because that's what a director does. So like I said, we have to sometimes step outside of the position of being a photographer and think about ourselves as a director. because that is our job first and foremost, is to direct the entire set. And to because if we can't direct to our makeup artists, our hairstylists, our wardrobes, our team, and the talent, they can't get inside of our head any other kind of way. And then therefore we will never ever get the end results that we all want to get. So we've got to learn how to direct the set. So I totally suggest when you go into masterclass, look up the directing master classes that they have, the advertising ones and the business ones. I'm on the business one right now with Bob Iger, who used to be, he was the former CEO of Disney. Just listening to how he deal with negotiations assists me in how I negotiate my rate with clients as well. It's an art to that. And you don't just know that stuff inadvertently, like naturally. You have to do some research. You have to study up under people who are really, really good at that stuff.
Thank you. Okay. Someone else, do clients give a reasonable delivery time for projects? And if not, how do you handle these situations?
Okay, so working editorial, like with fashion magazines, they come out monthly. So put it like this, when I first started working with one of the top fashion magazines in America, like that was my first time actually as a commissioned photographer for a magazine. They contacted me on Monday. The shoot was on like Wednesday. The moment that they got the confirmation of rate between my team and their team, we had to be on set on Wednesday. They wanted the external hard drive from the shoot that day, not in a couple of days. Like as you're shooting, it goes to a hard drive. Before you leave that studio, you hand that hard drive over, same day delivery. Most of the time, those clients have an in-house team of editors that'll be doing the retouching, which is everybody's favorite. Like, I'm so happy every time they have their own retouchers, because the return that they need on those images pretty much instant. They need it like now. Matter of fact, by starting working with editorials, I started to hire digital technicians to come in as part of my team. That's the individual who sits there on the computer and makes sure that everything is organized, that your lighting is good as you're shooting it, because you don't have the time to pay attention to those small details. Plus, a really good digital tech is sitting up there doing basic editing while you're shooting. So while I'm in the front shooting the model or the celebrity or the client or whatever, the fashion team, the editors are behind me looking at what I'm shooting on their monitors. But what they're seeing is what my digital tech is working on as I'm shooting. So all of that is right there, right now. But that's editorial. When you're dealing with like campaigns or lookbook or catalogs, you get a little bit more freedom with that, because just because you shot it right now doesn't mean it's about to be released right now. So you have a little bit more time then. And that's always good, because you want to be able to go back into your work that you just shot and edit out some of that whack stuff that you don't want them to see, of course. And they're more compassionate about that. But editorial, that timetable is like right now. When you're working with like independent private clients, like say, for instance, you can have like an independent designer who doesn't have a big budget, they're more understanding. But when you can have a timetable of a day, or you could also have a season as a timetable. Like you shoot it at the beginning of the season and it's not due to the next season. That's like 3 months. Also with campaigns, you may shoot something in January and it's not released until like fall season, because that happens a lot of times. Like I bring a lot of my clients to Jamaica because they're shooting their spring and their summer campaigns, lookbooks, catalogs, but they shoot them in the wintertime. So we go to Jamaica and we shoot it there, because it's, you all know, of course, the weather there is more ideal for it. We don't see that stuff until like the next year though. So it's different per client, different per deliverables, because that's what they call it. They call it deliverables, but they'll tell you what they need when you get the contract initially.
Thank you. Another question slash comment. Your style stands out to the point where we know who it is before we see the caption. It seems like you lean towards black and white images more so than color. Can you comment more on that? And the importance, if it is, of establishing a style. So outside of a niche, I guess, you know, like a visual, recognizable style with
Right.
a
I think
color
it all goes
grading,
back to
whatever.
branding. All of that goes back to personal style, taste, and branding. I feel as though that black and white images reflect my personal ideology of fashion photography better because it's timeless, it's classic. Colors go in and out of fashion. If you study Pantone, Pantone is a corporation that pretty much dictates what colors are going to be popular within the fashion season. Well, I think this year it's like blue, like it's like a natural blue. That may not be next year. So if you shot a whole bunch of blue this year, next season, next year, that may not be the color anymore. Black and white, I'm good all year long. But I do understand the psychology of color. I make sure that I do, because if a client created a dress in the color fuchsia, they don't want to see it in black and white. So even though, like, when you go to my Instagram, you're going to see what I personally chose, what I curate to represent my brand. But the client may have wanted that same image of color, and I can be able to provide it for them. So black and white is more so of a personal choice, but I oftentimes have a lot of editorials book me because they were like, we want your black and white stuff. That's what we know you for. That's what we like. That goes back to some of my favorite photographers. Hillman Newton, who utilized a lot of black and white. Peter Lindbergh utilized a lot of black and white. The photographer duo, Merton Marcus, they use a lot of oversaturated colors. So by studying their work, I learned to appreciate colors differently. When I'm shooting destination, I like to shoot destination in color now. But previously, I only wanted to shoot it in black and white. I like it now because I love the tones and textures and colors and shades that the sky gives me, that the ocean gives me. I've been able to utilize them now to push the fashion forward rather than the fashion getting lost in the background because everything is so colorful. But it mostly just depends upon what my client is looking for and how I want the viewer to respond when they see the image psychologically.
Okay, great. Right, there's another question. So, do you have formal training, quote unquote, as a photographer?
None at all. I bought a lot of fashion magazines and I studied them for years, just trying to figure out the lighting. I never went to school for fashion, not just fashion photography, for any photography. Now it's so beautiful because you can go on YouTube and learn almost anything about how to operate a camera, and you can get that for free. So I would not advise anybody to ever spend any money going to like a photography school, unless that photography school also teaches you how to run your business, because that's what I feel like most photographers need to know. Not just how to take a picture or how to see. You can teach yourself that, or to do an apprenticeship. I feel like that's probably the most effective way to learn. I wish I would have done an apprenticeship when I first got started, but I was in a region where there were not a lot of fashion photographers. I wasn't in New York. That's where all the really good fashion photographers were. So I had to teach myself. But I highly suggest anybody do an internship or an apprenticeship, because you'll actually see how a production is run and operated. Not just how to take a picture, but also doing a mentorship or an apprenticeship. You learn how to deal with clients. You learn how to deal with talents. You learn how to direct makeup artists, hairstylists, your whole production team. You can't really learn that on YouTube. You can't learn that in a book, and you can't learn that in a school. You have to have that valuable experience. So with my personal assistants that I have, my job is to make sure that within a year or two, they're sending me an email telling me they got a job opportunity and they can no longer be my assistant. Like, that's what I want for every one of my photography assistants. If I don't get that within, I'll say 3 years, I'm not doing my job properly as their teacher.
Well, great. And can you talk a little bit about your post, your processing? You know, what type of editing software do you like to use? How heavily do you go in, typically on a typical editing process? What do you?
Yeah, once again, I'm a minimalist. I hate over retouched images. I hate it with a passion. And I hate that it's so popular right now within the industry. But it's going to end soon because there are laws being passed in Europe, and they'll eventually come to the United States where beauty shots cannot be over retouched. Matter of fact, they don't even want retouching to be visible anymore. And it's a law in Europe now, which I'm so happy about, because at some point, photographers are trying to compensate or overcompensate for their lack of understanding of photography and lighting by over retouching. And at that point, I hate to sound like prestigious or whatever about it, but if you over retouch your images, they're no longer photography. They've crossed the line into graphic design. So it goes back to me saying that I'm a minimalist when it comes to it. Like I try to get the photo in camera as if I'm still shooting in film, where every single frame actually counted, because you had to pay for every single one of those frames. With digital, people just grab a camera and they just start shooting, and they'll shoot like 1,000 frames, and then they'll just use the one that just looked the best. You didn't master your shot. You just shot a whole bunch of random stuff, and this is the law of odds. You got a good photograph out of it. That's not, to me, that's not mastering your craft. And you'll get called out about it, because when you start booking corporate jobs and the client is behind you looking at monitors while you're shooting, your retoucher isn't there to sit up there and gloss up that photo. Your client is seeing exactly what you're producing. And they're sitting up there scratching their face like, we hired the wrong person. Because they should be able to see the quality of your work while you're shooting it. That's just a personal belief. So when it comes to retouching, I utilize Photoshop. Like I said, I'm a minimalist. I have Lightroom, and I organize my photos in Lightroom, but I do majority of my work process in Adobe Photoshop. I only commission retouchers when I'm dealing with celebrities. Celebrities particularly don't like my style of retouching because it's minimalist. They want to look fake. They don't want to they don't want to look like how they are. They want that glossy look. So I will hire a good retoucher that understands my style of photography to go and give them that, because they're the client. That's what they want. That's what I'm going to give them. But when it comes to my actual personal body of work that I utilize that I curate myself to present to clients, I've edited everything on there. Anything you see on my Instagram or on my website, I've retouched all of that. And I'll put it into my contracts with the client that even if they want a retoucher, I still want the option to retouch the images that I utilize in my book that represent that job. And clients are okay about that for the most part. Like, say, for instance, Netflix. We had a retoucher go and retouch the celebrities that I shoot for Netflix in the way that looks cohesive with the Netflix brand. But when it came to the images that I wanted to represent my shots for those, I did those myself. And then it turns out that the client actually utilized the ones that I personally edited. But that's not always the case. So I always want to be valuable to the actual person who's paying me. So even though I may feel as though I don't like that over retouch stuff, if they do, I'm going to provide that for them.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for that. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to unmute persons. Oh, someone's rejoining. I'm going to unmute persons, and as per usual, you can put your hand up or signal somehow if you want to verbally ask a question. Let me do that in a minute. Okay. And if anybody is particularly noisy, I will mute you. Okay. All right. So is there anyone who wants to ask a question or make a comment to Shamayim?
I would, Bruce here.
Bruce, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this little chat. You're so fluent, and I like your passion. And what I've learned is that we can't be jack of all trades. We have to concentrate on what we love, and we get satisfaction from it as we master it. So that's the takeaway I've got.
Mother, hi.
Okay, did I just do something wrong? Shama, are you there? Okay, you're there. Okay. Does anyone, oh, wait, okay. Does anyone else have any question or comment?
Mikhail would like to ask something.
Mikhail.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Shama, how does one ensure that your client respects the rate that they charge and pay? Put as simple as I can. So the quality of the work might be elite, but a lot of the clients are not willing to pay what you ask. How can I command that respect from them?
That's not your client. If they don't want to pay you your rate, that's not your client. But you have to place yourself into a position, especially like financially, to be able to turn down jobs. And a lot of times we're not, especially early on in our career, we're not in a position to turn down those rates. But you have to learn how to decipher whether or not it's worth lowering your rate because you really want the job or not. Because I do it all the time. That's where the negotiations come in. I will negotiate my rate down. One, if it's a travel job, I love to travel. That's high on my list. If the client is telling me, we understand that your day rate is $10,000, but we can't afford that. All we have is a $5,000 rate a day budget, but we're going to be shooting it in Tahiti, and we're paying your travel rate, and we'll be able to bring in some of your team members. I will take that job. I do it all the time. So you got to figure out what it is that you feel like is the most valuable to you, and if this job really is worth you negotiating your rate down with. Because once you go down on that rate, it's very hard to come back to that client that was like, okay, I know I did the job for you for 5,000 day rate last time, but this time I want a 10,000 US rate. Not going to happen. So what I do is, in my classes, I tell my students all the time, I was like, do the 50-50 rate, which is, before you even tell them what your rate is, double it. Find out what the lowest is that you're going to take. Like if the lowest that you'll take is 5,000, tell them that your rate is $10,000.
Don't work in Jamaica like that, sir.
Yeah. Who said that just now?
That's not how it works in Jamaica.
Yeah, it's so hard to do that here. They're the worst here. Like, they'll just move on to somebody else. They wouldn't even respond to that message. They wouldn't even respond to that message.
Once again, then that's not your client then. Because you need to get paid what your value and what your worth is. And that goes no matter where in the world you are. And I know that it's tricky no matter where you are, but like in Paris, they're extremely frugal. So what I get paid in London is not going to always be the same rate that I'm going to be able to get. Once again, that's a cultural thing. You're going to have to really like gauge. But I will make sure that like I'm not taking less than this for a job.
Okay. So
and if they want to go beyond that, that's just not the client for me.
Like based on the point the other person made before about it doesn't work here like that, I find that's why Jamaica suffers from like a brain drain. So all the young artists with talent, they eventually leave to major cities where their work is respected. But like shooting here, the progress I'd make in a major city in 6 months, it would take me 2 years to do it here, or more. So it's just that it's just in my mind, I just feel like I need to leave. I'd love to stay here and fuel the industry and grow. And I'm shooting a certain quality of work here, but I just cannot earn from it. So people love my work. I mean, likes and all that good stuff. But the money I know I should be making, and the clients have the budget, and it's just really discouraging, and it's a mess. But
they can't afford you then. Like your market there is not your market. They can't afford you.
Well, the market is kind of
just stack your money up and get out of there. What I do find is because I'm originally from a market that could not afford me either. So what I had to do was, like, I tell everybody this story all the time. When I first got started, like, I'm originally from like Atlanta, Georgia, which is 14-hour drive away from New York City. I drove every month, twice, 14 hours going, 14 hours going back, just because I wanted to be in the market that could actually afford me and respect me. So I had to do that. And I mean, it got really expensive, but I had to sleep in my car many nights because I could not afford hotel rooms. But I had to consistently do that to prove to myself that I was as valuable as I thought that I was. And it was not easy, but I was not about to stay in a market that did not respect me and was not valuable enough for me to actually grow. Because if they can't afford you there, you can't even upgrade your equipment that you need in order to do a better job.
So I guess in short, you're saying sacrifices.
You're just shooting yourself in the foot by staying in a market that does not respect you. Let's say they do respect you. They just don't respect you enough to pay you for it. They don't value you enough about it. So first of all, you're going to have to decide where your market is. And you're going to probably have to leave Jamaica. Because think about it like this. I've had clients in Jamaica, and they hired me from New York to come in when I never understood that. I was like, they don't have good quality photographers here in Jamaica. And they were like, no, we need like a fashion photographer. I was like, they're not fashion photographers in Jamaica? I refuse to believe that. But you better believe they paid me my rate.
Wow.
Jamaicans always stay
It's
for
about
us more.
respect. It's about value. It's about the fact that I created a strong enough brand to where they feel like this was valuable enough for me to put that in. They have the money. They got the money. If not, you're just talking to the wrong people.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a couple questions. I mean, really just one of them where you said that there was something that tells you what that predicts the color of the next season. I didn't get to write that down.
Pantone.
What's it called?
Pantone. Pantone. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thanks. And then the last thing was you said a quote about over retouching about it crossing the line into what? Graphic design?
Right. Because it looks like
Can you
digital
say
art.
that
It doesn't
one
look
more
like
time for me,
photography anymore.
Say that. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it just starts to look like digital art. It doesn't look like photography anymore.
Okay. Thank you. I could quote you on that one?
100%. Anything I can do to get photographers to stop killing the quality of their work with that stuff.
I appreciate that because I've been preaching the same thing too. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
Okay, I have a question here. What is your focal length preference for fashion shoots? Do you use strobes all the time or natural light as well? And do you have a preference, or do you choose your lighting based on what is necessary to get the shot your client needs?
I'm really big on consistency. I want my work to look the same whether I'm shooting on location or whether I'm shooting in studio. Like I said, I never change out my lens on my camera. It's always the exact same lens, 24-70. And I usually stay within like the 35 focal range when I'm in the studio. I have no idea what my focal range is when I'm on location. I don't ever look at the camera like that. I trust my camera and I know it so well enough because I've been using it for over 10 years to where I could just feel where my shot is. But I never use any strobes or light alteration on location. I only use natural light. And if the natural light is not there on location, it's not my day to shoot. That becomes really tricky because when you have a client that has booked you to go shoot on location and you're like, I don't use that stuff, they're looking at you like you're crazy. But I have no problem turning down that job if I cannot perform the task in which is at hand because my reputation is at stake. So I let them know what I need in order to produce the results that they want. In studio, almost everything that you see in my portfolio is a single light source. I only use one light in studio. Always been like that, but I'm trying to replicate the sunlight. And we only have one sun in the sky, so in the studio, I use only one light, and it's usually a medium-sized octabox that I keep at the different angles of the sun that I prefer to shoot at. I like to shoot in the middle of the day, unlike most photographers who like to shoot in the early morning or the late afternoon. I'm primarily shooting like in midday around 2 to 4 p.m. when the sun is at its highest and its most intense. So it gives me the most dramatic shadows and really good crisp lights. And it reflects light really, really, really well. And I can get a lot of motion and movement out of my model. And it creates that really atmospheric, moody style that I've become known for. And I utilize that exact same technique in studio. On both of my shoots on location and in studio, I shoot at what we call a worm's perspective. That's essentially where I'm kneeled down and I'm shooting up. This is what creates the illusion of length and height and perspective, with my models. That's why they look so tall. I do that in studio and I do that on location. Both the same, it doesn't change.
Fantastic. Okay. Fantastic. Okay, is there anyone else that has a question or comment?
Okay, since nobody's not asking, I'm curious about a couple things. You mentioned to one of the I don't know what we are onlookers that chances are for you to get what you want or what you deserve to get to your goals and stuff, you might have to move, right?
Mm-hmm.
I literally just moved from Miami to New York for that specific reason, because I felt like Miami was, if I may say, a sexy city, and I was looking to do more fashion, and then New York has texture and everything. Literally, just moved specifically for that reason. But when I get here now, I feel like I don't even know. It's like I had a plan, And then when I got here, I just feel like everything kind of like just fall apart. No, realizing that I don't know anybody, don't know the models. You basically have to start over, pretty much, and you have to work your way where you were respected in Miami. Now you have to start over because now you're doing something totally different. So it's like you're a total nobody again. You know. Any advice on like what you say is the first step? You know, you have to just take one step just to begin the movement. What would you say?
I 100% understand your struggle.
You did, but go ahead.
One being the fact that you did the right thing. Miami is a dead market. Everybody knows Miami cannot afford you because they have so many what I call cheesecake photographers who just want to shoot half-naked girls and they'll do it for free. Which you have that many photographers who are willing to shoot for free. Clients aren't willing to pay you no matter how talented you are. They don't care because there's some guy down the street with a camera who'll shoot it for free.
Exactly.
Plus swimwear, resort wear does not pay a lot. And that's what the market is. And alcohol, that's really big. And music is really big in Miami. I know because I spent many years there and I have a home there. I go there for weekends. I don't live there because it's not a market. The United States, North America even only has one primary market in fashion. That's New York City. It's not LA, it's not Miami, it's nowhere but New York City. And this is coming from somebody who lives in 3 different cities. So majority of my clients are in New York. So going there relatively not known to anybody, that was 16 years ago. What I did was I shot every single day. I shot with as many models as I could. That was strategic because the more models I shot with, the more relationships I started to build with agencies. The more team members that I work with, I don't care if the makeup artist was okay, if the makeup artist was good, the makeup artist was popular or not. I wanted to shoot with as many makeup artists, hairstylists, wardrobe stylists, nail techs, designers that I could. Because the more people you shoot with, the more people are going to be putting your work out there into the industry and into the market. That's how you're going to get your name out there. Okay, so you got to work with a lot of people and stop thinking about the money. I always say this, and it's hard for a lot of people to understand this, but never, ever, ever chase money. Never chase money. Always place yourself in a position where money is coming after you. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is if you're creating enough content that you actually start building a value behind your name. People are going to, they do not pay me because I take good photos. There's tons of great photographers out there. They're all using a camera. They can all pretty much get the same photo. They're paying me because of my brand. They're paying me because I worked with this company or that company. I was able to go up on my rate, not because of the magazines that I shot for, but because I was featured in the Smithsonian Museum. That's how my rate went up. I was able to get my rate to go up higher after I had been featured in Time magazine, not Vogue magazine, because it separated me from my peers. How I got those was I was collaborating and I was meeting people outside of the fashion industry who respected my work, but I stayed in my lane, which goes back to the branding. The Smithsonian Institute has an African-American museum. They had never featured a black photographer, let alone a fashion photographer. So that was interesting to them. They were introduced to me because of the Time magazine article. The gentleman who wrote the article about me on there knew the guy, the curator over there at the museum. See, these are connections and networks that you can really only get when you place yourself out there into the marketplace. You have to get yourself out there though. Like, as far as I know, the guy who introduced, the person who introduced my work to the person at Time magazine was a makeup artist that I had worked with 5 years ago. So you have to start working with as many people as possible and take even your test shoots. The test shoots are, of course, the shoots that you're doing that are technically free. I don't think nothing's free. I utilize the same value, quality, and investment in a test shoot that I would a client, a paid client. Because every time those images go out from a test shoot, I don't want anybody to know the difference between my free work and a paid client. I want them to be like, oh, that wasn't an editorial. Because that value quality needs to stay consistent, because you never know who's going to be on your Instagram today and see your work. It may be the editor-in-chief of Harper's Bazaar magazine, and they just happen to see your hashtag, come across your work and was like, this is our guy. But place yourself in a position to actually be the guy when they do come across you. Work with as many people as you can in New York. Everybody needs new images.
I appreciate you. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, great. Another question. Has COVID-19 affected your work dramatically, especially since New York seems to be an epicenter?
Okay, so one thing I do not subscribe to is the new normal that everybody's talking about. I don't even allow my mind to go there. This is not normal. This is a temporary situation. No matter how the media tries to hype this up, has it affected me 100%? I am actually supposed to be on tour right now. I'm supposed to be going through like 12 different countries that were booked and paid for. I'm not there. I'm in my home office. So yes, it has affected me. Yes, clients have been canceling left and right. That does affect me. But it's also been an exceptional time for me to build new clients because I've actually had the time to actually slow down. And I learned this from motivational speaker, entrepreneur, Gary Vaynerchuk. If you don't know him, please look up Gary V. He's an incredible dude. I went to one of his workshops and he had this idea of guerrilla marketing utilizing Instagram. So I tell as many people as I can, because I paid a lot of money to go to his workshop, so I give it to y'all for free. The thing is, every single day, spread this out over the duration of your day. Contact no less than 50 people that you want to collaborate with or work with in your DM. Not everybody's going to contact you back. But if you do 50, the odds are in your chance. Just introduce yourself. Don't try to sell yourself. Just because most of the time you're not booking jobs because people don't know you exist. It's not that you're not talented. They just don't know you exist, which goes back to what he was saying about being in New York and like not knowing anybody. They don't know you exist. So if you get into those DMs, say for instance, you're contacting a makeup artist and you want to be like, greetings, how are you doing? My name is Shamayim. I'm a fashion photographer in the area. I know things are crazy right now, but I love your work. And once this is over, I would love to work with you. That's it. Now you've introduced yourself. Now you're on that person's radar. Now they're going to go and check in your work. And that's a connection. But don't just do it for a makeup artist or team members. Do it for people you want to work with. That's how I booked a lot of my clients. I'll go and hunt down those independent ones, not the big corporate jobs, but like say for instance, like today, I just posted an image that I did of swimwear. I made sure I hashtag swimsuit, swimwear, resort wear on my Instagram on that picture. What that did was individuals like independent swimwear designers are going to come and check out my work and then they're going to see it and then they'll contact me. But I don't just rest upon thinking that they'll find me. Also today, I'm going to contact 50 independent swimwear brands around the world on Instagram because I just put a new swimwear shop on my page. I want to contact them with a DM, not saying, hey, you want to book me for a shoot? No, I'm contacting them just to introduce myself and like, love your work, love what you're doing. You know, once this thing is over, in the event that you want to meet up, do lunch, do coffee or whatever, I would love to just talk to you more about your brand. I don't sell myself. They know that I'm contacting them because I want to work with them for money. But I never try to sell myself. I'm more so interested in meeting them, seeing what they need so that I can tell them how much value I can bring to them. Like say for instance, I see that they haven't been able to work with a lot of like real good photographers. They probably are taking the photos of the models themselves. I'll contact them and was like, love your designs. I would love to add more value to your brand because I see swimwear like this. I have access to all of these great locations. I travel all the time. If you want to send some swimsuits with me, let me take some pictures for you. I can send you the photos. I'll take 3-4 images for them. Send them the images that I took when I was already going to be visiting Bali for another client. I'll take the model out, take some shots of her for free. Send that designer those pictures. They can no longer go back to shooting those lesser quality images once they get those. I got them. Now they have to have that consistency because if they post it on their Instagram, I got them because they're going to notice the lower quality images compared to my quality images. They got to come back for me to get it. I hate to say it, but it's like the drug game. You give them a taste of it and they're going to come back to you for more because you got them. It's marketing. But it takes work. When you're laying in the bed and you're sitting up there and like, la, 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 don't just scroll on Instagram. Start hunting down those clients, introducing yourself to them. That could be earring designers, somebody who does like cosmetics in their basement. Everybody needs a photographer. Make yourself valuable to them by introducing yourself to them. That's the only reason they haven't booked you is because they don't know you exist.
Great. Question, will you have any workshops soon?
Yes, I'm actually having a digital workshop coming up because the situation we're in right now, not a lot of people can actually come into the studio or whatnot. And I want to be able to reach as many people as possible. So we're planning one for August in New York. It's going to be a physical one and a digital one, so people could come in live and exhibit it. We're going to have all of that stuff posted on my website. But I always recommend photographers to more so look into the expeditions that I host more so than the workshops. The workshops are very valuable because I go into detail a lot about the business stuff that I've been just breezing by with you all. But the expeditions I feel like are more valuable to photographers because my focus with those expeditions is to build your value, to make you a better photographer before you leave. It's a couple of days rather than just one day where you have a workshop. It's like a couple of hours. Our expeditions are the minimum of like 2 days. And we're always going to these exotic locations because I want to be able to sit there with you at the end of the night, go through all of the photos that you just took so that the next day you're a better photographer than the first day you came in there. We set you up with actual professional models. We have team members coming in. We have beautiful clothes coming in because I want you to be able to walk away with images that you could actually utilize in your portfolio to make you more valuable. It's hard to get access to a lot of really good professional models. So I try to, with my expeditions, to make that accessible to photographers as much as possible. And a lot of photographers take those images and I take my connections and we get them published in actual magazines because a lot of times you all just don't know how to get your stuff published. So I feel like those are more valuable because we're sitting up there learning, but we're also creating actual images that you can actually use to increase your value, make your rate go up. Because if someone sees you're out there in Egypt shooting or Paris shooting, and you go back home with those images, they're not going to look at you the same. They're not going to look at you like that local photographer anymore.
Great. A question, how do we get access to your expedition?
My website.
Okay.
Go on there. There's a link that says expeditions. It has a list of all the stuff that we have planning. By the end of this week, we're going to release all of the upcoming expeditions for 2021 because mostly all of the ones that we have planned for this year have been shifted. I do one annually back home to Jamaica where we invite photographers to come in. It's set up in where my family is, which is Long Bay in Portland. Because out there I have access to pretty much everything. We go out there for like a couple of days and we create some incredible images. I have an amazing crew over there, the Blue Lagoon at Fisherman's Cove. And they just allow us to be able to do big productions without anybody bothering us. They section us off so that we can actually concentrate on creating really beautiful images. We have designers from all over the world send us incredible clothes for us to shoot. So like, even though we're shooting in a tropical location, we don't barely ever touch like swimsuit stuff because I want to be able to give my photographers access to things that they don't have access to outside of the productions. So we're going back to Jamaica in July though, towards the end of July this year.
Okay, awesome. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? I put Shama's website link in the chat so everybody can access it there.
Mikhail has a request.
Mikhail, go ahead.
I get the feeling I'm the youngest person here. And I recently deleted my Instagram and restarted it. Just have like close friends following me. I'd love for Shama to follow me. I don't care. I'm just going to put it out there. Haha. And if you could look at my website, I'm going to put my website link in the chat. And you guys can just check it out.
With that being said, Mikhail, if anybody wants me to like review their portfolio, I am more than open to it when I have time. You could just send me a link to it on my Instagram. I always suggest that you send it to me on my personal Instagram, which is shamayim.shakaro, because if you send it to my other one, I'm not lying, I get like hundreds of DMs on there, and sometimes I just don't see them all. But if you send them on my personal page, you can see I only got like 1,000 people follow me on there. I will more than likely see it there, and I'll be able to open it up for you and give you any recommendations that I possibly can. Even if it's like, if I see your work and I'm like, yo, I think you're in the wrong market, you should probably try London, or you should try Paris. Or if I feel like any advice that I can give you on how to get better models, team members, any way that I can be of value to you and help you, I'm more than willing to do that. Just send me a link or just say hey.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And finally,
One
there
second.
was. Oh, I'm sorry, Renee, you had a question?
No problem. Can you just repeat the Instagram for me, please?
I'll type it for you guys because I'm on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. And there was a question. Do you consider, or wait, let me find this 1 second. Okay. What is your viewpoint on photography as a whole? Do you consider it as an art form, or do you consider your photography art, or and what do you think about people who consider photography just as profit?
I believe it's all of those things, and I don't think it can be limited to just one of them. It is whatever you desire for it to be. Photography is extremely political. For me, it's extremely spiritual because I utilize it as a platform to celebrate women of color. And though I do make profit for it, I feel like the real profit that I make for it is the fact that I get these little DMs from 15-year-old girls who live in Zimbabwe and will just be like, thank you so much for taking pictures of girls who look like me. That's exceptionally important to me. So to me, that transcends just art and profit. But though it can be extremely lucrative for a business, if you do desire for it to be like that, so it is that as well. But when it comes to art, I for the most part, I think that most creatives think that their work is art, but that's so subjective. I can't really say that when I look at a photo and it's just like, say for instance, it's a H&M or a Zara or some type of department store where a girl is just standing there wearing clothes and it has like words over it and a price. I personally don't consider that to be art. I think that's commerce. I don't think it's the same thing. It's some artistry to it, but I shoot for clients of work that you will never see from me because it's strictly profit. It's just me standing there with a camera on a tripod doing like this while the model does 13 poses. It's catalog. There's no artistry behind it. The client wants a very specific lighting, very specific poses and things like that. So I don't consider that to be art. That's why I don't post it, but it pays. It pays very well. It pays me enough to be able to go and create art because usually the stuff that we want to create creatively as art, we don't get paid for that stuff because it's free and it allows us to be free.
Thank you so much for that, Shama. Does anyone else have any question or comment? Okay, Ian Gage, go ahead. The floor is yours.
You said earlier on that you use one light, so I went on your website to look, and I'm still looking, and I still not believing in one light, but I believe in you. But it really
Don't believe me? Go to my YouTube. My YouTube channel shows the behind the scenes. You'll see it's just one light.
But no, because I think for a lot of people, especially starting out, who don't have the equipment and so on, and I think a lot of people get stymied, by the fact that they don't have all of this equipment and all of this stuff. And to see that you can produce really high quality work with a single light, and well, of course, you can do it with a Canon. So, but again, you're shooting with a single lens. So it really is kind of an inspiration. Let people know that you don't have to go out and pack up a huge bag of all kind of stuff and a lot of bags and tricks. But just one question, that even when you're shooting on location and you say you're not using, and you use natural light, do you use any light reflectors or anything like that at all?
Never.
Light as it is.
I'm not opposed to that. I just never have had to. And it's allowed my work to stay consistent. Because when you add all those different forms of light manipulation, it's very difficult to make sure that your work stays consistent that way. And plus, that stuff requires a team. And when I'm traveling, I like to travel as light as possible. That's how I'm able to get away with a lot of my locations. Because if you go to Egypt and you try shooting in front of the pyramids and you got a light reflector and you have strobes, you're going to like be up under somebody's jail. But when I show up in most of these destinations, it's just me, my camera, and like a model, and I just look like an amateur photographer or some model's boyfriend taking pictures of her for Instagram. So I'm able to get away with a lot more stuff. And then I'm able to go and shoot covers for magazines and destinations that other photographers didn't get access to because I travel really, really lightly. Plus, when you're carrying around that stuff, you could be shooting in some locations that, like in Brazil, there was a team for Vogue, had their entire production robbed in Brazil. Everything, the whole van got robbed at gunpoint. I'm talking about maybe tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment gone. And I was shooting down the beach further from the rest of the team. Nobody ever stopped me. Nobody ever bothered me because I just looked like a guy taking pictures of his hot girlfriend on the beach. And I was the actual photographer. Everybody else on that team got robbed. I don't want to be a moving target. I like to be able to move efficiently. And when you have all that set up, you're losing light. When you have to sit up there and test, you have to be dependent on your technology. I don't want to be a slave to technology. Hell, last time we were in Jamaica, we were shooting in the jungle, and this one photographer on the expedition, he couldn't do what I was trying to help everybody do, just use the natural light. So he started setting up all this equipment. It took him 45 minutes. I had already shot 4 models. All the other photographers shot 4 models. We were all sitting there on a log waiting for this guy just to finish setting up his equipment and doing light tests and all of that kind of stuff. And then it starts raining.
Question.
Did somebody say something?
Yeah, Frank.
Oh, Franklin. Okay, Frank, go ahead.
I just wanted to know, when you come to Jamaica in July, can I come to your shoot?
Yes, 100%. Everybody, please, like, all the details are on the website. When you go to the website, it has all the details about where we're going to be and things like that. So I invite everyone to come out there and experience. We have a really good time. And I know that Long Bay is far from like Kingston or Mobay or whatever. But if you want to stay out there with us for a couple of days, like I said, my family, we own villas on the ocean. Just let us know ahead of time when you go to the website or whatever, and we definitely have places for everyone to stay.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And I see, I think it was Sean, somebody had put the link to the Jamaica Sean, to the Jamaica expedition in the chat, in the Zoom chat. So everybody can take a look at that. And again, of course, it links right back to Shama's website, which has the information.
And when it comes to those things, I make no profit whatsoever from any of those expeditions. The actual cost of it, one goes towards my scholarship program that I do every year for a young graduating Black entrepreneur. We pay their first year tuition. And the rest of that goes towards the actual production of booking and flying in professional models, makeup artists, hairstylists, and the wardrobe for the actual production. That's where all the income goes.
Great. Great. So final call for anybody. Anybody else has any last comments or questions that you want to add?
You one more question.
Frank, go ahead. Floor is yours.
You said you only shoot at 24 to 70. Is that 1.8, 1.4?
No idea. I'm so serious.
If it's a 24 to 70 Canon, I think it's 2.8.
Yeah. Oh, my assistant probably wouldn't run in here right now and be like, ugh.
Well, I'd like to make a statement, if anything. Well, I mean, I really appreciate the fact that you know, are a minimalist, because I am also pretty much afraid of the whole equipment, and I'm not as versed in what's for what and when I should be using what, and all of that just confuses me, which then either leads me to take random shots or use time trying to figure out then how to deal with a particular equipment or how to best utilize a particular equipment. So to see that, you know, you are that type of an individual and you are still excelling. It is, how would I say? It just, it gives me a push. It gives me a little bit of hope in a nutshell.
If you keep it simple, you can master those few things that you know extremely well. And if you need to add something else in the future, that's okay. You can learn that as well. But you can always, I have jobs right now where the client wants me to shoot on a Hasselblad or a phase 1 camera. Those are those $60,000 cameras, like $100,000 cameras. I didn't know in the beginning.
Wait, Sam,
Nobody
I'm so sorry. We
owns
didn't catch
cameras.
that part. You caught. Okay, so continue. Some clients ask you to shoot on Hasselblad.
Hasselblad phase 1.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really expensive camera, 60,000 US and up. And that's just for the body of the camera. At first, I was thinking that the photographers who I respected own these cameras. They do not own these cameras most of the time. Clients pay for them. Okay, so don't get on social media and get fooled by seeing all of this fancy stuff. Most of the time, we don't own any of that stuff. We rent them for jobs. And if there's something that I need to rent before a job because I know I'm going to have to use it, I go and rent it for a day or two just so I can learn it so that when I have to get on set. But I always, no matter what I have to bring on set, I always have Old Faithful right there. Because when that $60,000 camera can't do what I want it to do, I pull out this tried and true, what I know I'm going to get the right thing out of. So don't get caught up with it. Master what you have access to. Don't get caught up in that expensive stuff. You'll blow. It's always going to be a new camera coming out. Always. Go rent it. You don't have to own it.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so I think we are going to wrap up. Callie, are you sure you don't have any other question or comment?
I can tell you that
Yes,
without trying to sound like kissing ass, right?
Right.
I can tell you that I have been following you for a long time, and you have influenced me because similar to you, my approach, I watch the YouTube and all that stuff. So my approach, a lot of it comes from because of what I see you do, right? In terms of being a minimalist, and I have a sling that has two what you call it, lens in there. My camera body and 2 lenses, 35 and 85, right? And just like I'm sure anybody else, I don't have to worry about having lights and stuff like that. No matter if I believe that if my eyes can see it, then the camera will be able to see it. And I don't. So if I'm jumping a fence to do a quick shoot with a mother, I'll be like, look, we're gonna go right there. So you're gonna do these 2 poses and run over there, so and do that before somebody come. And I can just do that with just the camera in my hand and we're out, you know?
Yes.
I only want to say that, I look up to you. I love your work.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that. Honestly, I do.
At the end of the day, you get results that I appreciate because it look realistic. It look real. I hate the plastic skin stuff. So
Yes.
I was happy. I don't know how it just happening is Ken just reached out to me today and just be like, you want to be a part of this? And then I saw the flyer. I was like, what? Yeah. so it worked out good. It worked out good.
And I do invite you all every Sunday on Instagram. I do an Instagram live where I invite during the week you to send me whatever questions you want me to address. I have different guests that come on every Sunday. Some of them are makeup artists, some of them are models, some of them are motivational speakers like we did last Sunday. And it's just other individuals who have a different voice that can come in and be of value to you. So like if you don't know how to work with like an agency, like a top agency like in New York, like how do you work with those models? We had agents that come in that represent those big agencies, and they can answer your questions one-on-one. I just want to be as valuable as possible as I can to you all. It's usually starts around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but it just depends on my guests and their schedules. We usually have about 4. We'll start like around Wednesdays. We start telling everybody who the guests are going to be. I try to get like hard to get in contact people to come on there so that you have access to talk to these people and learn from them. And hell, it's free information. Why not? If you're not doing anything on Sunday, join us on Instagram Live and try to find it as valuable.
I have one quick thing to ask you. Now that you talk about agencies and stuff. While I was in Miami, I was able to shoot with a lot of agency, not a lot, but quite a few agency models, and their images made it on the websites of the agencies and stuff. I've gone through the agencies, a few like Next and Elite and stuff, and they would set up test shoots, but not for the love of Christ. They would constantly reach out to me, and then as soon as I start mentioning money, they just jump to another.
That's where you messed up. That's not our job. We do not get paid from agencies. We're not model photographers, we're fashion photographers. Concentrate all of your energy and your effort on clients. Models are not clients, they cannot afford us. They are broke. I can understand you having a rate for models outside of agencies, but if it's an agency, do not charge them. You need those relationships. Those relationships with those agencies are far more valuable than you asking them for a couple of $100s for a test shoot. Because I shoot, to this day, I will develop an entire new face board of an agency and not charge $1 to that agency, because I can come back and I have a little bit more value behind me to ask for the higher end girls for my project. Because I'm like, hey, favor, I shot those new girls for you. I want this girl right here. That's way more valuable than me getting a couple of $100. Those are not our clients. You need those relationships. Those agencies also are the gatekeepers to you working with better models and better clients. So you want to be in their favor.
Okay.
Plus you need,
well, I guess that's where I went wrong.
You need agency models. Charge the girls who are not represented by an agency, because they're not as valuable to you. Agency models are valuable to you. Okay. But make sure that they credit you, because if they're not crediting you, then they're not as valuable to you as you are to them.
Understood.
Great.
Okay, I'm done, Kian. Thank you.
You sure? No, I'm done. No, well, boy, Shama, it has been an immense pleasure having you here.
Thank you guys.
You know, you really did a deep dive into so many questions that people had, and we take great inspiration from your journey and from where you're at now, and we continue to watch your trajectory, you know.
Thank you so much.
Of course, you know, people will reach out to you on your Instas, and we will follow you. I already saw messages from persons saying that they definitely want to do the expedition here. So I know that people will be reaching out with regards to that. And truly, from the bottom of our lenses, thank you so very much. Very much.
My pleasure. And any way I can be of value to you guys, I'm open for it. When I get back to Jamaica, if you all are there in July, before I head over to my part of the island, I would love to meet with any of you guys. Let's have a lunch or something like that. Anything we can set up.
For sure. If we're not up and running back to, or you know, in-person meetings at that time, then for sure we'll definitely set up something, a meeting.
Think about that virus, but yeah, you're right.
No, but when you're coming, we will definitely work something out to have a group meeting with you, just to chit chat and to see you in person.
My pleasure. Awesome. I can't wait to meet you all. Seriously.
Yay. Awesome. So thank you very much, and thank you to everybody who has put in your questions and your comments and helped to make this evening quite interactive. Thank you all, and we will all be in touch.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Oh wait, oh dear, Veral, sorry if you put in your question kind of late, but I will message him and ask for a response to your question. about research. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Ken, thanks again for
Thanks, Ken. That was
contacting me
awesome.
with this one.
Woohoo! You owe me, Kali. You owe me, but I know how you're going to pay me. No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. I'm
I
joking.
already have it set up.
That's true.
That's why we need to talk.
We
I'm gonna
will.
hang up now and get
Yes,
some charge on my phone, but
and
call
call
me
me.
anytime you're ready.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I'll call you. Cool.
All right.
All right. And thanks, team. Thanks, guys. Yay!
Oh, sorry. One more
Oh,
question.
what?
I hear about this group thing. I am so close. I'm curious. Is what? It's like a Facebook group or something?
Dude, you miss. Well, yes, there's a Facebook group. There's a WhatsApp group. I will definitely get you added the Jamaica Photography Society group.
Sorry, because we're not in a Jamaica, that's why I'm not
I mean, it is for the group.
My
But
accent, no, Jamaican, you know.
I've been missing so long.
You're barely hanging on by a thread.
Oh,
No.
you're even here.
I'll send you everything. I'll send everything, my brother. I'll send you everything.
You guys take
All
care.
right.
It's a pleasure. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye. Later. Thanks.
Get onto this.
It end.